everyone, Alexa Donne here, and today I am talking all about how to start your own Booktube/Authortube channel. How to get started on YouTube. I've been on YouTube for about 9 months, going on 10, and I have been floored by the growth. Like, thank you to every single one of you for subscribing, for commenting, everyone who's watched my videos. I really appreciate it. And I've gotten a couple of requests in different Q&As and in comments to, for tips on how to start your own YouTube channel. In particular, with YouTube changing some of their rules for becoming a YouTube partner and monetization just a few weeks ago, I think there's a lot of concern about, starting a YouTube channel from scratch and how to grow when you are new or a small channel, and if it's worth starting a YouTube channel at all. And I'm biased, I'm gonna tell you that yes, it is. It is definitely not easy to grow. It's hard. There's all this stuff about YouTube algorithms and kind of best practices, but I'm a bit of a wackadoodle Ravenclaw, and I did a lot of research before I started my channel. I got advice from friends who had successful channels, and then I did a lot of video watching. There's actually a whole little cottage industry on YouTube about how to make YouTube videos. So there's actually a lot of information out there that can definitely help you, figure out a strategy for your channel and to grow. And I definitely employed a lot of those strategies. So I feel that I am, a good person to share with you some tips and tricks on how you might start a Booktube or an Authortube. Now, I'm going to break this into 2 parts, so welcome to part 1. This is all of the kind of setup. Deciding to start your channel, kind of the things that you need to put together, including equipment, in order to start your channel. And then stay tuned for part 2, which is going to focus on growing your YouTube channel. So first off, I'm going to start with channel brand and identity. So you should always know what landscape you're entering in the YouTube community. There are a lot of different YouTube creator communities, and they're all a little bit different. They have different kind of community norms and unspoken rules and kind of things that work. And also your kind of potential for growth is going to definitely vary depending on the space that you plan on entering. So I think it's a good idea to be very aware of what's going on in the space that you hope to enter, not only so that you can genuinely engage with the community and create interesting and useful content, but also to temper your expectations. So for example, as someone who's doing Authortube and just getting into Booktube, I know I'm never going to have 4 million subscribers and YouTube will be my full-time job and I'll be an influencer, and that's honestly not what I'm going for anyway. I watch a lot of BeautyTube as a consumer. I just really love BeautyTube, and just some of the heights that you can ascend to in BeautyTube are just very different from the heights that you can ascend to in Authortube or Booktube, and that's not bad. But meaning, I think it's very important to be aware of what is possible. I also think it's just a good idea not to tromp into a community, shoving your content out there and expect people to watch it and accept you if you aren't actually a part of the community, if that makes sense. You should be watching content by popular and less popular creators in this space, so you know who's out there and you can get a sense of where you fit in. It's really important to figure out your angle, so to speak. What are you bringing to YouTube and to the community? And from here on out, I'll specifically say Booktube and Authortube, since I'm assuming that's kind of what you're here for. But what are you bringing to the space? I'll give you some insight into what my process was. So at the time that I was like, I think I want to start an Authortube, I was watching Kim Chance and Lily Meade, Jenna Moretti, and Ava J, and I saw an opportunity to offer the specific perspective of my debut year being published by a large traditional publisher. So I started my YouTube channel in June. It was right after my book deal was announced, and I've been using this channel in a large part to kind of document my debut experience, kind of share a lot of, the honesty of what it's like to be traditionally published, kind of offer, industry advice and things that will help people navigate the business. Also, you know, doing some craft things, though I'll kind of get to more of like content in a little bit, but meaning I saw room in the space in the community of Authortube to offer my specific experience and perspective. But also, you're never going to be completely original, and that is okay, because of course I'm talking about a lot of the same things that the big Authortubers talk about as well. And that's a good thing. The great thing about YouTube is it's all about pretty bingeable content. So you'll watch one video by one creator and then it's suggesting other ones in the sidebar. And you're like, oh, I wonder what this person, what their perspective is on it, because they have a slightly different, you know, experience with writing or publishing. So I knew I was entering kind of an established space and there were community norms. I looked at what types of videos were popular, what people were really responding to as viewers, and what the YouTube community really wanted out of Authortube. And then I thought of the specific and unique things that I could bring. And so, you know, when I started my YouTube channel last June, I already had plans to kind of start slow, but eventually talk about money in publishing, something that no one was talking about, let alone on YouTube. People just don't really talk about that. That I could talk in depth about marketing for traditional publishing, because that is an area of expertise that I have. So just to give you an idea, you want to know what can you bring to it? And let's say it's a booktube. It could be just your unique taste in books, that you want to focus on books that maybe you're not seeing covered on other channels, or you want to focus on a critical review style, or you want to do kind of fun games with books. You can always find a angle that really fits you personally and is bringing something new and exciting and fresh to the community. I will also say you don't have to know 100% what your unique angle is when you start a channel. You can absolutely develop and evolve over time. I've definitely evolved some of the things that I've done on the channel as I've, you know, filmed things and posted them and seen like what people actually care about and what they want to see. So don't be too overwhelmed oh my gosh, I have to have a unique angle. Honestly, my advice is just going to be like, take the plunge and start a YouTube channel and see where it takes you. So next is the pre-channel prep. Like, what are the things that you kind of need to line up to start your channel and like get off the ground running? So the big question that always comes up is, well, I don't have a lot of money. Do I have to spend a lot of money to set up a YouTube channel? What kind of fancy equipment do I need? And the thing is, you don't need a lot of money or a lot of fancy equipment to start a YouTube channel. Now, there are going to be even better resources out there for you for starting a super budget YouTube channel or starting a zero budget YouTube channel. I'm going to tell you kind of the very modest budget range that I did and what I recommend to you. And that is, I recommend setting aside about $150. You can save towards this, or if you have it handy, that's great. You also don't necessarily have to spend that all at once. Now, this recommended budget does not include a camera, which is a whole area, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. But what I recommend you use this initial investment for, and this is what I spent my money on, a tripod. I got an Amazon Basics tripod. It wasn't that expensive, but it is sturdy for my camera, which I will get to in a second. Also, lighting. I actually at first didn't invest in lighting, so if you go back and watch my first like 4 or 5 videos, you might notice they're a little bit dark. If only I could go back and fix them. They're a little bit dark because I tried to use natural lighting, and there are some channels, and depending on your setup in your apartment or wherever you're working, you might actually be able to get away with natural light. But despite living in sunny, beautiful Southern California, I was not, because the most ideal spots in my apartment for filming have a lot of shadows going on. So you see me right here, I am sitting against a wall in my living room, and there's a window right here. And a lot of my early videos, what you're getting with kind of the poor light quality is the light was coming through even with my blinds closed and kind of creating like it would be darker on this end and then a little washed out on this side. It wasn't good. And so I do use a lighting setup which projects light from behind the camera. You always want to put your light behind the camera onto my face to reflect it back at you. So I did a pretty low investment. You've probably heard of ring lights. That is a standard with a lot of YouTubers, but I got some good advice from a friend, Lily Meade, and I started with a soft box kit, a soft light kit, instead of a ring light, because ring lights are over $100 and I still haven't taken the plunge to make that investment because I found that the soft kit works really, really well. I actually bought one that had two for $80 and I've only ended up using the one. So you can get one for like 40 bucks and it totally does the job. I still need to film in daylight. If I film at night, I find that using the soft light kit, it's too bright, it creates shadows and it makes me a little bit yellow. But I basically combine filming during the day with using that for my lighting setup, and it's not that expensive to get. You can create a DIY rigging, and as I mentioned, there are some great people on YouTube who have, you know, covered that. Like one friend said you could buy like a light from Home Depot and it has like a clippy thing and you clip it. You can also use, if you have lamps, you can sometimes make lamps in your home work. I also saw a booktuber or an authortuber who very cleverly, she cut LED lights and like pasted them onto a cardboard thing, which she put around her camera, and that definitely created a little extra light. But I'm really, really happy that I invested in the soft box kit because it has proven invaluable. It immediately improved the quality of my videos when I had a good lighting setup. Now, the other main area where I recommend you invest, with a caveat, this is really only going to come up if you are a PC user. So the good news is if you have a Mac, you can cut that initial investment budget way down because you're not going to have to invest in software because you can use iMovie. I am a PC user, however, so I needed to invest in some video editing software. I wanted something that was pretty versatile and would enable me to create pretty, you know, I just want it to be easily usable. I don't even do fancy effects for my videos, as you know, but I wanted a very organic editing suite. And so I did invest about $80 in Pinnacle. I did some internet research and I came up that it was one of the top kind of like budget video editing software options. It's by Corel, and you know, it has like little things that drive me crazy about it, but it's pretty solid. And so that was a one-time investment in my editing software. So between that and the lighting and the tripod, that was my initial investment in this channel, which brings me to cameras. You can invest in a fancy camera. I currently do this channel with a Canon Rebel T6i. That is a very popular budget fancy camera for YouTube videos. The really fancy one that like the higher up people use is the Canon 80D. That was over $1,000. That was like really, like I think that was like really high and I wasn't gonna do that. But I did upgrade my camera in November of last year after I knew that I was fully invested in my YouTube channel. So I do recommend starting with the camera options that are available to you when you start your channel, not worrying too much about having insane quality. Like, make sure you're fully committed to doing YouTube before you go out and spend a ton of money on a camera. So the good news is that if you have a later model smartphone like this one, this is my Google Pixel, and I filmed all of my videos on this thing from June to November. And so all of my early videos, which I think are pretty good quality, were filmed on my smartphone. So if you have a Google Pixel or a Samsung Galaxy or any of the iPhones pretty much past a 5 and up, but especially the 6 and up, you're gonna get stellar video quality on your smartphone. And the one trick here is you're going to have to buy a like tripod converter attachment thingy so that you can mount your smartphone on your tripod. I bought one, it just kind of like clips on the camera and then it screws into the tripod, and I filmed all of my videos staring at this puppy because my Pixel films video in 1080p. And honestly, I was really happy with it. But I'll say that kind of the difference since upgrading, it's not massive. Probably the biggest difference since upgrading is that I can get this camera, my Canon, to do some fancy focusy thingies. So the background is slightly less focused than my face, which is a nice little trick. And because I use manual settings to like, I watched a YouTube video for the manual settings to use on my my Canon to make my videos pop more. I have ISO lighting. I manually set the lighting settings. So in addition to my soft kit set, my camera also does extra like light balance, which is why my videos, since, you know, early December, they all look a lot brighter. And once I messed up and it was too bright, but for the most part, it's just like my videos are very well lit and in crisp focus. So that's the really only big difference, and honestly it's so minor. You can film on your phone. So let's say you don't have a smartphone. You can use the webcam on your laptop, on your computer if you have one. It's less optimal. Typically webcams are much lower resolution and they tend not to handle lighting inputs quite as well. But you know what? If that's what you have, you can definitely go for it. And last but not least, there are some point and shoot cameras that actually shoot pretty good video. So if you already have a point and shoot camera, you might find that it will work for recording video for your YouTube channel. So those are my recommendations on cameras, which brings me to microphones. So when you are recording with your smartphone or your laptop, especially your smartphone, a lot of the time you don't need an external mic. It's not an investment that you necessarily need to make. So again, all of my early videos, I used the audio inputs on my phone and they were pretty good. When it comes to a laptop, it's actually easier to attach an external mic to a laptop than it is to a phone. So I do have a snowball microphone, which I had for podcasting. So if I were to record from my webcam, I would definitely use the snowball mic just because it gives better sound. And when I did upgrade to my T6i, I bought a budget Rode microphone. It came in the kit. So I do use a professional microphone ever since I upgraded my camera. And I mean, the sound quality is a lot better, but it is not a deal breaker. And so all of these things I'm saying is to say that you don't need that much equipment to start your YouTube channel. I'd say the basics are a decent camera, good lighting, and editing software that can do the job. And then you need somewhere to film. So again, if you go back and watch my earlier videos, you'll notice I used to have 3 filming locations. This one in front of a desk and in front of a different bookcase in my bedroom. And I kind of played around, and actually my bedroom had the best lighting, but I created an Instagram wall. This was meant to be my Instagram wall, and then I was like, wait, it's my YouTube wall. So I created a space that was just really comfortable to film in. I can sit down on the floor. I am on the floor with this bookcase behind me, and I have an interesting background, and it's just really easy to talk to the camera sitting here. So just pick a space where you're comfortable, that has good lighting, or you can give good lighting with your lighting setup, where you can just sit and talk at the camera. As you know, for Booktube and Authortube, but especially Booktube, if you've just got a bookcase, you can slap your butt in front of a bookcase and talk to the camera. That's probably the most popular setting for Booktube. So that's all you really need, and we're all book nerds, so we basically all have bookshelves. But another option is you can, especially if you're using your computer, sit at your desk and have like the background of your room. So you just need like a decent looking background. I will say that you should avoid windows. Again, it's kind of the lighting thing. If you have any light in front of the camera rather than behind the camera, can wash you out. So again, I mentioned I've got a window right over here that I balance out with my soft kit light, but if that isn't there, I get light washing into the frame, and it can really, you know, set things off. I mean, honestly, if the lighting changes while I'm filming, and this does happen sometimes, like California sun is finicky and like, you know, it'll be really, really bright, and then 40 minutes later it'll be dimmer, and the lighting in the videos will change. That happens. But you don't want to have a window in your frame. Generally it'll wash you out, and you also don't want reflective surfaces. So you have to be careful with picture frames, certainly mirrors, because if you are using a lighting setup, it's gonna bounce off there, / people will be able to see the camera. I used to have a picture frame back here. I had to be really careful of how I framed it, and in some videos you can still see my light in the picture frame, and then it ended up being swapped out for this canvas behind me because my mom gave me this Christmas gift. She's adorable. It's great though because canvas doesn't reflect light, so it's a lot easier, to have to worry about it quite as much. So next, and kind of last but certainly not least, is actually establishing kind of like your channel art on YouTube. So you're going to need a channel banner. The good news is that you can use a lot of free online software to create these. One that I know of that I do recommend is Canva. If you go into Canva, you can choose YouTube header. They have a bunch of templates that you can then customize for yourself. I design mine in Photoshop personally, but that's just because I have Photoshop skills and I'm kind of like control freaky about what I want it to look like. And you want to have your header be pretty simple, like, you know, say who you are, a little bit about you, not too busy, just you want it to kind of look fresh. And then you want it to match or complement your thumbnail style. So you have to think about your thumbnail style. This is really the last thing that we're going to talk about in part 1. I'm actually going to link you down below to a great video that, again, my great friend Lily Meade, who was so helpful when I set up this channel, she linked me to this and I watched it and it was so helpful. It's a graphic designer who basically redesigns someone's YouTube channel and gives a really great overview on designing the header and the thumbnails and picking fonts and picking colors and doing gradients, and I use that to kind of set up my brand identity. So I recommend choosing a couple of fonts that you like. Make sure only 1 or 2 of them are busy or fancy. You always want to have at least one stock font that's like a basic sans serif font that looks good in both lowercase and uppercase. Pick some colors that you want to use. I have a standard purple, turquoise, and pink that I use for all of my stuff. I don't really deviate from that, if you notice. And in my thumbnails, I decided to do a cute gradient effect on the titles. Now, I did all of this in Photoshop. I am comfortable in Photoshop, and I do make all my thumbnails in Photoshop. But you can use Canva, and there are a couple of other really good resources that I know that a lot of YouTubers use. And so I'm gonna link down to all of those in the description box of different resources you can use to do DIY free thumbnails. Now, the important thing is it has to be readable. So you'll see what a lot of different YouTubers do. They put white behind it, or they do block text on front of like a rectangle. There are a lot of different ways to approach your thumbnails, but you do want them to be eye-catching. You want them to concisely summarize what the video is about. It is okay and totally kosher to have the thumbnail be slightly different from the title of the video. People typically look at thumbnails first, and then they look at the title of the video. And I'm gonna go more into titling your videos and keywords and whatnot in part 2. That's part of engagement and growth. But you wanna have it be like kind of catchy and short and sweet in the thumbnail. You can use emojis and like little symbols, anything that's gonna catch people's eye. Now, posing for your thumbnails, you can theoretically take a screenshot from a video, but here's something you need to know about starting a YouTube channel. Most human beings are super awkward when they're talking and moving. When I try to take still shots when I'm editing, even just when I pause, the expressions I make are horrifying. You're gonna have to get used to seeing you like go like make the weirdest faces. Anytime you pause while you're talking, especially me because I'm like a gesturer, I make the most ridiculous faces. So I struggle to find usable thumbnails, so I pose for them when I film my videos. So you're gonna feel super awkward and weird, but whenever you start filming a video or at the end when you're done, you just you pose. Like that. And then when you're editing, you can take an easy screenshot of your nice canned pose, and there's a variety of different poses you can do. You want to sit kind of framed on one side of the frame usually so that your copy can go over here, and generally I recommend that for filming. As you can see, I usually am a little bit off center when I film. And what I also do in Photoshop that I do like is I always brighten and tone my images so that my thumbnails are bright and appealing, and then I do that. I have the blue and the purple pink gradients that I use with the fonts that I chose. And actually, you might have noticed, I recently started updating my thumbnails because I realized that when they render really small, that some of the words weren't readable, so I've gone in and added extra kind of white to pump them up and make them more readable. So you always want to think about them being eye-catchy, readable, and also unique to you. Alright, so the true end of this video, I said that the other thing was the last thing, and it was the last thing, but that is to cover some things that you might be like, huh, she didn't cover these things, and that is channel intro and music. Oh, and end tags. So these are all things that you can do on YouTube, but I consider them kind of YouTube 201, to the point that I don't even do them. I decided to kind of get comfortable with just talking to the camera and editing and doing thumbnails and all that jazz, and not worry about, you know, finding rights-free music to layer over my videos or like having like a fancy intro. I just don't really have the video editing skills for that. But also I did do a test of music with my video, and I just didn't like it. And you'll see, you can watch a lot of different channels. A lot of channels really effectively use background music and others don't use it at all. You totally don't have to, because I consider that kind of a next level YouTube skill. I also consider custom end tags a next level YouTube skill, though I'm hearing that nowadays they're not letting new users even have those, that it's kind of a YouTube partner perk, so you don't even have to worry about it. But that's those kind of fancy custom things when you get to the end of a video where like it's like a custom graphic that comes at the end of the video and has like video, like clickable video links in it and stuff. Lily, my friend, sent me a template and I honestly found it really frustrating, even though I'm good at Photoshop. So I decided ultimately that I wasn't gonna do it. And honestly, it hasn't really impacted me. So I don't think personally that you need to worry about little intro videos, music, or end tags. And something I'll say about intro videos is I've actually seen a lot of those YouTube experts who kind of give you advice on like building and growing your channel say that intros that are like too long or distracting actually lead to people clicking away from your video. So if you are gonna have an intro, it shouldn't be more than 2 or 3 seconds. So I just personally haven't bothered and it hasn't really impacted me in a large way. So that's it. That is part 1 of starting your own Booktube or Authortube channel, kind of the practical, what you need to consider equipment / starting your channel tips. Next up is going to be engagement and growth. How do you, label your videos so that people will find them, and how should you approach comments? What are tips for growing your channel? Because the new metric for becoming a YouTube partner, which is getting extra like kind of things that you can do with your videos and monetization, we will talk a bit about making money off of YouTube. You can only get those now if you have at least 1,000 subscribers, which honestly, it's a lot of work to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I believe it's 4,000 hours of watch time. And so we're gonna talk about video engagement, which is really tricky and a whole other ball game. So I'll talk to you about like average length of videos and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much for watching. Drop any questions or comments down below. Happy to ask if you're thinking of starting a channel. I can, kind of give you advice on a case-by-case basis, especially, equipment. There's a lot of different ways to approach equipment. And as I mentioned, you'll find links in the description to all of the things I've mentioned and all of the things that I recommend. Even if I didn't recommend a specific product, I will link you to some of the options down below. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Happy writing and happy YouTubing.